Hello, folks. Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Really appreciate y'all being here today. And I just got word from Hugh. He's not able to join. So unfortunately, he's dealing with a flood right now, and he's not able to get internet where his flood is occurring. So they're having something going on he's out at his lake house today. So apologize about that. So I'm going to go and I asked him if there's anything in particular he'd like me to cover based on the responses that he's been getting from all of you. And let me just see if there's anything. Okay. He said they're having a lot of success with larger leads. He just sent the text now. Having a lot of success with larger contacts. And so he encourages everybody to not think that we can't support the larger businesses. In fact, they've got more to save. And he said the number one thing he needs, of course, is statements. So anytime you're working with people, when they fill out our form, we've got an intake where they can upload their bank statements, their payment processing statements right then. So if they're an existing business and they're existing processing, we require they upload their statements. So they can't advance without that. So I would tell your clients that they're going to have to upload their payment processing statements, their merchant processing statements. And if you don't know what that is, every business who accepts credit card gets a statement once a month. It's not their bank statement, it's a merchant processing statement. And it literally shows like 7,000 transactions if they had 7,000 transactions. It'll show every transaction in Visa, MasterCard, Discover, Amex, rewards cards. It's got all the details. And then at the very bottom, it's got a total processing and a price, total cost with fees and everything. That's the statement we need to give an accurate quote, and that shows us the type card mixture. The reason we like three statements is because their card mixture changes. As we've said before, the card mixture has different costs. If you come in with a Citigroup Visa card, Visa doesn't charge the business as much as if it's a Walmart prepaid debit card. Okay. Or if it's a credit union credit card, that Visa charges more to the business. There's a higher risk there. So an Amex card costs a lot more to that restaurant owner than a debit card, as an example. So we don't know what type card mixture they have. We don't know if it's all Discover. We don't know if it's all Visa, high risk Visa, debit card, or credit card. We don't know if it's MasterCard debit or credit or high risk Master versus. So if it's real hard to get a Credit One card, not Capital One, Credit One, they give people who just went through bankruptcy, an opportunity to get a credit card. And you can only get a couple $100, but you can get a card there. Well, they charge that costs a lot more. There's a lot more risk that Visa will not get paid that money. And so they charge the restaurant a little bit more. It is what it is. So I think it's 400 rate charges per different cards. So that's why we like to see multiple statements. If we have one statement, we can give a rule of thumb savings. We can see what they're paying and we can show a savings. So one statement really is all you need, but when you have three, you can get a more accurate because they may have a real high sales month one month versus another, or real low one month versus the other. And keep in mind, there's fixed costs. There's monthly fees, equipment fees, transaction fees. All those are rolled into the total cost. So at the end of the day, when we can see all that, they may say, "Hey, I'm only paying, a half percent of sales for my costs." But when you look at their statement, you may see they're paying 2.25%. It may only be a 0.5% markup, but the markup is on top of cost. So they may be paying 2.75 or 3.25% of sales. So that's why you want to get your hands on a statement. Number one, you don't have to get it, but we have to make sure we get it. So your role is you're talking to business owners. If you're telling them we want to get you a quote, but we're gonna need a copy of your statement. When you go fill out that request a quote form, we're gonna need a copy of your statement uploaded. So every month it gets sent to them via email, or they can log into their portal and download it. It's really easy, but they're going to have to do that to get an accurate quote. All right. Now, if they're your friend and they say, "I'm switching either way, and I'm going to dual pricing," and Okay, we're still going to want to see a statement. Why? Because we need the company address, we need the current bank accounts are being the current merchant ID, so we know what kind of equipment they're using, so we can transfer over. There's still needs. So that is kind of like the critical piece of information is the statement. So just know that as you're talking to businesses, that we need to get their statement. So um, Wade just had a client and they've got 3 locations payment processing. And so each location's about 150 residual revenue. So that, about $400 residual revenue a month. But they've got 20 something more locations and they wanted to try dual pricing at these 3 first. Now they're expanding. So you think about it, you get a client and they're so excited, they're telling other people about it, but they don't want to be an agent. They just want to refer people to Wade. So they're all becoming his clients. When you get one and you do it well, what happens? We just had our cars detailed. They're both just over a year old, and they start to not look like new cars. And so we had them both detailed. They look better than showroom new. And as soon as Morgan sits in, she goes, "Oh, I got to talk to these guys about getting a detail." And we put it up on Facebook. Wow, this is great. And how did I learn about this detailer? Because 2 doors down, he did my neighbors. Referral after referral after referral after referral. That's where you'll grow your business. Networking. Networking is asking people that company. As soon as he did the detail in my car, he sent me a link to his rating. He said, "Would you do me a favor and give me a rating online? And if there's anyone else who needs detailing that could you send them my link?" Didn't offer me money, didn't, and I gladly shared it with people. Right? I've already connected him with 3 or 4 people. And so, because he's good, people will do the same for you, for your payment processing, for all of our services for that matter. If you're getting one, don't stop there. Our 5-step customer acquisition processes have them on a list, approach and pique their interest, find out if they're interested in learning more. So just inform them about our payment processing. We can save you 3 months of your current processing or all 12, right? Drive your profits. So save and drive profit. Remember, those are the key things. Number 3, all we got to do is get a copy of your merchant processing statement. I'll send you a link. You fill it out. I'm out of the picture at that point. Our expert, payment processing expert, will take over talking to you from there. And once that's going, stay tuned in to your status updates in case they're saying, "Hey, we're trying to reach them. They're not calling back." You can call and say, "Hey, Bill, Hugh's team has been trying to reach you. They haven't been able to reach you. Can I set up a 3-way call with you and them and make the call happen?" Right? And then once they get activated, then it's time to ask for referrals. Would you do me a favor and go to Trustpilot and give us a review, please? And also, please mention my name in that review, that I'm happy to help people. And then also, is there anyone else you know of that I might be able to save some money that you'd be happy to refer this to? I'd really appreciate if you could send them my link. That's the 5-step process in all of our products, basically. But it's lists. They got to be in your prospect list. 2, approach and peak interest. Use the app. If they're interested, the sign-up process again is we need to get them to fill out the form at your link. You just send them your link. It's right in your app, right in your app sequence. You already sent them, but they're going to have to upload their processing statements, right? So let them know that. And then pay attention to your status updates. Over half of our clients, they never respond. We're chasing them. Hugh's team is not going to chase them permanently. It's your job to get them on the phone with Hugh's team if they're not responding, right? So if you're seeing status update is caller not responding or no change from getting quote, they're not responding. Pick up the phone and make it happen, right? Stay on top of them. Ellen told her testimonial the other day about a client she's got. It'll have over almost 400 residual revenue every month. And that client told her, "Yeah, you guys couldn't save us money." But she knew from a status update, we never even gave him a quote. The guy was misunderstanding. He was mistaken. She's like, "Wait a minute, did you even get a quote yet?" And he said, "Well, I think so. I mean, we've gotten some quotes. I thought your company quoted it." And come to find out, we never did. And we won. We won the business. So because she pays attention to her status update, pays attention to her business, she was able to win that customer over. All she had to do was get him on the phone. He was mistaken. He wasn't being deceptive. He was mistaken. So because they had gotten other quotes. So pay attention to your status updates. All right. And then once they're processing, ask for referrals. It's that simple. That's the 5-step process. Now, if they're not processing today, can you get a merchant processing statement? No, of course not. Now, Hugh's team is not built for startups. They'll do it if you're going to be processing a lot of money, but they're not looking for $1,000 a month type people and 500 a month. But as he says, his number one partner, his number one client started as a startup producing zero. It was one of the smallest ones he ever signed up. Now it's his largest. All companies start at zero. So we're willing to sign them up, but there are monthly fees and there are things. So just know that if they're going to sign up and they're never processed, when they're filling out the form, they won't have to upload a merchant processing statement because they've never processed. They don't have a statement, but they do have to forecast what kind of sales they're going to do. All right. They do have to put in a forecast of how much they think they're going to do per month. Now, so that's all I wanted to talk about today is the importance of the 5-step process. Go through it, give referrals. When you need a statement is when they're already processing. When you don't is if they're not. So you'll hear Hugh say all the time, we need their statements. That's the presumption is they're already processing. If they're a startup, of course there's no. And I don't mean startup. I mean, if they've never processed credit cards. We were, as a company, 7 years old, D.A.C, before we got a credit card processing account because we needed to do it for our D.A.C ID Protect, right? We needed to get credit. We never needed it prior to that. Okay. So now we do. Now, there's different risk. I get asked this all the time, so I'm going to answer it here. Not everyone's approved for merchant processing. And I want you to understand that there's an approval process. If they've got decent credit, then they can get approved. But if they've got bad credit, it's going to be hard to get credit card processing. They're going to need an owner with decent credit. All right. Now, if they've got an existing business and they've been jamming and doing well and taking merchant processing, that's a different story. But if they're a startup or new to payment processing, they got to get approved for it. And their industry could get them declined or their credit could get them declined. So just know that. It doesn't mean they shouldn't try, but just know that there is an approval process for that. It's usually a 600 FICO score or higher, unless they're an existing business already processing. All right. And then it's not a problem as long as we have their statements, because that shows clawbacks and shows other things too. That's all I had to cover out today. That's the last minute. I was notified at 11:31. I'm jumping on. So I asked him what he wanted to cover. That's what it is. So if you have any questions about anything, let's cover them now. Any questions about payment processing, go ahead and ask it. Any questions at all?
We have Christopher Sanchez. You can go ahead and unmute yourself.
All right. How you doing, Chris?
David, how we doing? I like the color of your shirt.
Well, thank you.
In regards to payment processing, you mentioned bigger accounts. I had a conversation on Monday, and one of the challenges I ran into, they had been with this current processing company for going on 12 years now, but they're processing just over 400,000 a month.
Yep.
And I says, well, what is it I'm not presenting to you that's bringing up this reluctance to even look at a possible different scenario for you that's going to benefit you?
Mm-hmm.
And he has said, well, to be honest with you, my biggest concern is I've heard this so many times that it's an easy transition going over to another provider. And he said, that is my concern, because you're not just talking one location. He goes, you're talking over 2 dozen. I cannot afford to have any of these with a hiccup. He goes, if there's some way you guys can guarantee that there's not going to be a hiccup, or you're going to go to the best of your ability to prevent a hiccup, he goes, get back to me. But till then, he goes, there's really no need for a discussion.
Okay. So there's great points. And by the way, if most of our business is transitioning customers, you got to be good at that, right? So transitioning is not, it can be difficult, but you never turn off someone's processor until you got the new one turned on and ready to go. So it's almost like this. Let's say you had a printer in your office and you were printing stuff and you bought a new printer. You keep using the old printer, then you plug in the new one and you test the new one to make sure it's working before you start sending all your traffic to the new printer. It's the same thing with processing. It's not like you turn off a processor and turn one on. You turn on the new one while the old one is still live, and you start processing on the new one, and then you power down the old one after all the testing is done. So there's no risk of outages or anything like that. You do test transactions before you shut down the old one. And the reality is like this, like Wade's customer. He's got, let's just say 30 locations. He tried one first. It worked well. So he tried a second, worked well, tried a third, worked well. Now he wants to start scaling all of them because he already learned what it was like to turn on one. Hughes personally told me about a client he's working with 30 or 40 car dealerships. They're turning on the service department at one dealer to prove it out. And then they're going to turn on, the sales department and then the parts department, so you don't have to get the whole business. So if he's got multiple locations, we say we totally get it. It's what your reluctancy is the normal. That's, of course, it's like shutting off of someone's cash register. You can't do that. So what we do is we have a migration strategy that you can turn one on, prove it out, turn another one on, and the one that turns on, you don't turn the old one off until you've proven this one out. So migration is we understand that's your biggest concern, and we take that very seriously. And we assure you, we won't be shutting your old one off. Your old one will still be existing. We're going to light the new one up, and then you shut the old one off yourself. It's always there. I still have a merchant processing account for Escape International that I stopped processing in 2010, and I pay $24 a month just to have it in case I ever want to power it up again. It's still there. If I ever need it, I could put that MID in our account right here and be live. So it's never shut off until you shut it off. So that's what I would tell them.
Excellent. Thank you, David.
You bet. And of course, Hugh would answer that far better, but give him calm that migration is, I mean, that's everyday work for us. And the more in depth their POS system is, their equipment, the more difficult it is. But we always slowly transition until we've got it right. Because they've got menu items and they got printers printing in the cooking area, but this is what these guys do. These guys do this all the time, and it's nothing.
All
Any
right.
other questions?
We've got one more hand up. Jesse Creel,
Yes.
go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Mr. Rutz, how you doing?
Good, Jesse. How are you?
Fantastic. I appreciate you asking, and thanks for doing the webinar. So I just want to ask a question. I've had a lot of, I have a good bit of experience with merchant services, actually at a job in a call center, and they always give you the script and so on and so forth. I know, there's some, the D.A.C thing is it's more like a laid back conversation than it is trying to squeeze somebody out, as far as I can tell anyways. You tell me. But my question would be, so say at the last place, I had a lot of success setting appointments, the equivalent of what you would call bringing into the specialist, getting these statements and so forth. And I would just say, hey, my name is Jesse. I'm calling with such and such. We have a new program. It's designed to save up to 95% off the processing fees. We just want to come show you the program. Would you have any availability tomorrow at 9? And would you prefer 3 p.m.? And then just kind of take the conversation from there. I didn't see a whole lot in the David Allen Capital Drive as far as talking points and so forth. Do you have any recommendations as far as that goes?
We do only in what Hugh covered in the training. We're about meet, greet, and inform. We're primarily a warm market company, meaning we're talking to aunts, uncles, businesses, canvassing as a customer. We're not teaching telemarketing. We don't teach telemarketing. We don't teach cold canvassing. It's a violation in many states to cold canvass without proper telemarketing rules, regulations, registrations. So we've got a telemarketing policy that prevents and restricts and to protect us and also protect you. So anyone should read that who's thinking about just dialing for dollars, if you will. Can't use predictive dialers, can't use equipment, can't use machines that bloop, leave voicemail drops. Those are all illegal, and you'll get sued by the clients eventually. TCPA suits they're called. So you can call people who you have relationships with. You can call people who are advertising, but you want to make sure you're following the rules with that. So with all that disclaimer said, what you just said is the points, and then we offer them a free quote. So we just meet, greet, and inform, meaning we inform them that we can save them money with the same or better equipment, and we'd love to give them a quote to prove it. We get their fees down to zero. We'd love to get them a quote to prove it. We can, how dual pricing. So our training talks about what to educate them on, what to promote, but that's all we teach. Just like with funding, we have bullet points we teach, but we don't teach a script. And we found that scripts, people don't necessarily, first of all, it turns you into a numbers person rather than a servant leader. And we want people to be servant types. So what you just said is in our training, but you're saying it to a friend or a family member, or you're canvassing as a customer. So if you watch our payment processing training with Hugh Pober, he does discuss what to say to new clients to get their statements or get them to fill it out. But it's what you just said, along with a couple other things. Good question. And I'm glad you had success where you were. Hopefully you're still earning residuals. And but we're done. This is the third call with these folks. And so I'm going to jump